Yeah. It's the mayor of Magaville, baby. Hey, you know who we voting for? We voting Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving. America needs saving. We voting Trump, baby. November 5th, we going crazy. November 5th, we going crazy. Red pill poppin', swerving in the Trump. Republican 4G, Antifa knows what's up. Red, white, and blue, mega nation, throw it up. Black, white, and brown, all about the Trump. Democrat party gon' take your freedom. Indicting our president cause they can't beat. It's a two-tier justice system. Put America first, we the big. FJB, FJB. FJB, FJB. FJB, FJB. Let's go, Brandon, sing it. We voting Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving. America needs saving. We voting Trump, baby. November 5th, we going crazy. November 5th, we going crazy. Now I pledge allegiance to vote for Trump. There's a red wave coming, you gon' surf for what? In God I trust to take the devil away. Lock Joe Biden up and throw the key away. Your propaganda ain't gonna work on me. Bidenomics is like you working for free. I demand reparations from every idiot that voted for Joe Biden, boy, period. Period, Sleepy Joe is a fraud. And the bloodbath in the Oval Office. The media is the enemy of the people. The Democrats and the fake news always cheat. FJB, FJB. FJB, FJB. FJB, FJB. Let's go, Brandon, sing it. We voting Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving. America needs saving. We voting Trump, baby. November 5th, we going crazy. November 5th, we going crazy.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you this morning. You are watching on the Smart Money Culture TV network on your television sets in Texas and Louisiana. Hats off to my main man, Fly Mackey, the man with the plan for putting that all together, as well as streaming around the world on YouTube and Instagram and X and all the other great places that we stream to. Rumble, we even started a channel over there on Rumble and everywhere else. So very interesting day we have there. All very interesting. I'll tell you what, we're kind of, everything is now, the markets, everything is treading water just a little bit as we head into next week. We're going to get this Fed rate decision. Of course, seems pretty locked in. I think 25 basis points is locked in. I don't think they're going to do 50. I think 50 basis points, which is 0.5%, is going to be too much. Plus, they're saying we're going to have 3 rate cuts by the end of the year. So that's cool. That'll send everything flying. So I imagine it'll be 25, and then maybe 25. We'll see. Of course, Trump comes out and says we shouldn't raise interest rates. The Fed knows they shouldn't raise interest rates at this point in time ahead of the election because he knows what that's going to do. For the but that has always been the plan, but he knows what that's going to do. You see gas prices have been are down, right? And now the economy is going to boom as they lower interest rates. Of course, they just were taking everyone's money, so now they're going to put some more liquidity back into the markets and into the hands of the corporations and everything like that. And they're going to, that of course has a trickle down effect. So people are going to have more money and they're going to be less upset at what's going on. That's the name of the game, guys. It's politics. Money and politics are the same thing. Guys used to tell me back in the day, Bruce, don't be political. I'm like, we're in Bitcoin, guys. Bitcoin is political. You didn't know that? Bitcoin's political, folks. Bitcoin is political. It has always been political. It's a monetary revolution. It's a monetary revolution. Talk about it all the time. Talk about it across stages across the world. It is pretty exciting, though, that this recovery will happen. I think whoever is elected, we're going to recover at this point. Now, where we go after that is going to, we'll see what happens there. A lot of signs, of course, point to recession. Looks like there'll be some type of recession. whatever way it goes. So we'll see. Gold at all-time highs. Bitcoin not at all-time highs, but S&P 500 stock market flirting with all-time highs for the last 8 months, it seems like. There's all-time high, all-time high, all-time high, right? Over and over and over again. Trump goes on his X yesterday and talks about his crypto venture. This is worth the look. This is worth a look because he says we're going to get rid of the banks. You know, I'm fairly upfront about it, right? And the Fed, and the Fed, and the Fed. Well, maybe he will end the Fed. Donald Trump, he just is going to do it this way, that way. Right? This is worth watching. This is right on his X feed. Very short clip here, but pretty telling. Let's see here. The great Donald J. Trump. Oh, he had a great talk last night. Here we go. World Liberty Fi. Listen to this. This is worth the watch here.
Join me live on Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. this September 16th for the launch of World Liberty Financial. We're embracing the future with crypto and leaving the slow and outdated big banks behind.
So this is interesting. We're going to watch that one more time. Because like I said, I'm always like, end the Fed, end the Fed, end the Fed. And well, Trump's not going to end the Fed, guys. I'm sorry. He's going to do probably a lot of great things if he gets in, but I don't think that's going to be one of them. It's going to take more time than that. But here he is introducing another, and we're going to leave the old banks behind. I mean, this is remarkable. It's remarkable that we have the leading candidate coming out and saying something like this. I hope he doesn't get JFK'd.
Join me live on Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. this September 16th for the launch of World Liberty Financial. We're embracing the future with crypto and leaving the slow and outdated big banks behind.
Leaving the slow and outdated big banks behind. World Liberty is the name of the deal there, and then Rug Radio. I'll have to check them out. We should probably be on Rug Radio. Donald Trump. And so this is going to be September 16th, which I think is Monday, right? 14, 15, 16. Monday, yes. 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to bring it to you live. Donald Trump's State of Crypto Address from Mar-a-Lago. Well, this guy, he is something else, isn't he? All right. Monday, September 16th, 8 p.m. on X Spaces. That is remarkable. It is nice, though. You know, I've been crypto almost since the beginning, right? I mean, Bitcoin was like $70. It was $50. I think it was 50 cents when my brother first told me about it. It was $50 before I really started paying attention because I said, oh my God, why didn't I buy some at 50 cents? $70, I'm in. I've been talking about it since the beginning. First of all, I was staffing models, but we had a promotional modeling company, my wife and I, so I was staffing models. I was trading Bitcoins for staffing services with everybody I can. Then, you know, kind of on and on. But I mean, I was fringe, guys. I was on Twitter, models for Bitcoins. People were like, you're running an escort service or something. I'm not running an escort service. What are you guys talking about? And then of course, that was like what, 2012, 2013, 2014. We're still fringe. We're fringe. 15. I mean, we're like really just on the outskirts here. 2015, 2016, Trump runs. I come out very forcefully for him because I feel like my business is going to go down the hill if Clinton gets in. So I might as well just throw caution to the side. I stepped away from everything and stepped away from my companies and started focusing on getting them elected. but still very fringe. I mean, people didn't like me, even like, oh my gosh, this Bitcoin guy. They told me, I had multiple people tell me, Bruce, just drop the Bitcoin stuff. It makes you look not credible. They would tell me. It makes you look not credible. Just drop the Bitcoin. Just drop the Bitcoin stuff. Of course, Bitcoin goes up. I mean, I remember guys going to 3,300. 3,300. I was like, oh my God. Actually, when it went to 1,200, I was like, oh my gosh. I had sold a bunch at 400. Luckily, it came back down. But, and then 2017, we hit 20,000. I'm totally, at this point, totally vindicated. Everyone's like, oh my God, the guy was right. And of course, we got Trump elected too, so I was right about that. He did a good job. Made the economy roar. Okay. Now, here we are, 2024, and it's like totally, it's leading the charge. It's more than mainstream. It is finance. It is the future of finance. It is finance right now. BlackRock comes out and says, basically, we already have a one world currency. It's called Bitcoin. I'm paraphrasing. They've bought the heck out of it. That's why it's $50-something thousand right now, because these guys bought the heck out of it, the central bankers and everything else, because they don't want you to have it. Bitcoin is freedom. Bitcoin is freedom. But it is an interesting situation to come where we came from and to just be myself. And I know there's a lot of guys like me. I'm not taking it all the credit, but to just be myself and to just do what I wanted to do because I loved it. And that's what I love to do. And have what I love to do actually become the one world currency, to become mainstream, to become the topic of our time. People didn't even realize it was a monetary revolution. I've been saying it was a monetary revolution for the longest time, but people didn't. Monetary revolution? What's he talking about? Nick Spanos started it, I guess. I talked to Nick Spanos on the phone the other day. So, how's the show going? We go back and forth. Of course, Nick and I, we talk about things that people can't know. Nick Spanos, one of the great men of our time. I got his feed right here. The great Nick Spanos. Bitcoin pioneer, Netflix documentary, Banking on Bitcoin. This guy, he worked for Ron Paul. He was a campaign manager as well for Rand Paul. He was Ron Paul campaign staff. Rand Paul's, I think he was the manager. The revolution will be centralized, will not be centralized. We were on the phone this day. And when he said that, it wasn't the first time he said it. The revolution will not be centralized. But a revolution there will be, my friends. We're in the revolution. Speaker Johnson comes out with the bill, with the CR, an abomination of a bill. And he says he tries to just shove it down everyone's throat under the guise of, oh, we got to secure the elections. Ain't nobody buying that, man. You wanted to secure the elections, you would have secured them. You would have gotten us off the magic electronic voting machines. You would have stopped the mail-in ballots. If you didn't want illegal aliens voting in the election, then you would have stopped them at the border. The Republicans would have stopped them at the border. The Republicans have control of the House. The House has control of the purse. I mean, really, these guys do, but Speaker Johnson and the Republican majority had total, complete control to defund the people that were letting everybody in, to defund all of the funding that goes to these people, giving them free housing and free medical and allowances and everything else. Total and complete control. That is the House's job. So he rolls out this spending CR. He says, we got to pass it. We got to pass this CR. Continuing resolution, meaning kick the ball down the field. We haven't actually had a real spending bill in, I don't know, years. It's been years. We just do this continuing resolution thing, and then we keep adding more and more and more money on it. This guy's trying to stop it. Rand Paul, of course, trying to stop it too. It's a totally broken system. Every month we get taxed more. Every month that they spend more money, you get taxed more. You don't have to look at what your taxes actually are. You just have to look at what the government is spending. Because what the government is spending is how much you are getting taxed. You can either get taxed on that on the front end, or you're going to get taxed on by them taking the taxes, or you're going to get taxed on the back end by inflation. And we are really a tax nation right now. You can't drive around Washington, D.C. and not pay $20, $30, $40, $50 in tolls. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Tax nation. And that's after all the other taxes we're paying. Or you can drive in the other lanes with all the people who don't have enough money, and they have to sit in traffic. So you pay. It's safer. It's faster. Anyway, we have the great Matt Dixon here. Sir Matt the Great.
Hey, good morning, Bruce.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. As you know, I've been looking into the macroeconomic charts. We need to try and step back, just see where we're at the moment.
Sounds great.
It's charting Friday. It's Friday 13th, isn't it?
Friday the 13th. I was born on a Friday the 13th at 8 p.m. Just in time to go out.
And 13 is a great number because it's actually, with Elliott wave, impulses are normally 5-wave moves upside. But when you get extensions, they're 9 waves or 13 waves. So 13 waves is a massive extension on Elliott wave. So it can be seen as a good thing. So
nice. Well, yeah, I mean, 13 is a great number. It's one of the numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely not into. So I hope you can see my screen. In fact, I'm going to just jump out of that for a minute and jump
Make
into.
sure you guys follow Matt Dixon. He's Dr. Trade, MD Trade.
Yeah. So can you see that chart, Bruce?
I sure can.
Great. So that's the one we've already looked at. That is the CPI, and we can see CPI has been falling consistently for the past well over a year now, since the height of inflation. You know, it's been dropping dramatically, and we got a big fall again a couple of days ago, which was probably good for risk assets, and it sets us up for the Fed coming next week on the 18th. Sets us up for a reduction in interest rates, meaning that's probably going to mean there's more money flowing around in the economy. It's going to be good for risk assets initially. So let's just keep that in mind, that we are in an environment of falling interest rates. I'm going to jump around a little bit with some of the charts that I've put here on my X feed. So bear in mind, we've got inflation falling. So falling inflation is a good thing when you're above target rate. And bear in mind, we're currently 2.5% inflation CPI. Target rate is 2%. So the fact it's falling is probably a good thing. But the fact is it's falling, but at the same time, we have actually GDP falling. So GDP is a backward-looking measure of the economic growth, really, and gross domestic product. And we're looking here at the last 3 quarters, and we can see, looking really at the brown column on each of these, we can see for the last 3 quarters, GDP has been declining quite dramatically. Now, when you go into negative GDP for a period of time, that's counted as recession. So the fact that we've got now consistent reduction in GDP, along with that consistent reduction in inflation, shows that the economy is slowing. And if we move into negative territory and stay there, that will mean that we're into recession. But we need to understand then, what does recession potentially mean for us? Because it sounds a really bad thing, but is it always so bad? I mean, if you look at this chart here, for example, we can see what's happened during a recessionary period, what's happened here with the S&P 500 returns. And we can see that when recession hits, these negative points are what happens when recession hits, and some big falls in the market. From going right back now, probably 70 years or so, over 70 years, 76 years. So basically, a lot of stock market history shown here. And when we've had recessions, and these are each recessionary periods, it shows the downward movement in the S&P 500 returns. So, but what's interesting is that following recession, following the depths of the sell-off, not necessarily following the recession, but following the depths of the sell-off that was caused by the recession, we can see the rises both 1 year and 2 years after. So always accompanied by really nice rises in the stock market after those recessions. So
those are some nice moves.
Yeah, so we get recession, we get a big sell-off, and that can be a very painful sell-off. Now, what I just showed you is that we are declining probably towards recession, and we've said on many, many shows before, we've looked at all sorts of measures. The Psalm rule is telling us that we are headed for recession. We've got unemployment ticking up now, which is we're showing growth coming down. There's all sorts of things. We've got inversion of the yield curve. All the indicators are showing us that recession is coming. So it's telling us that at some point we're going to get one of these big downward moves in the markets, both crypto and stock markets, I suspect. So, but following that, we should get some great rises. So the thing is, we just need to be prepared. If the next move is going to be a move down, we need to try to understand when is that going to be. So we're looking really on a macro scale here at the moment, what's going to happen in the kind of long term. So we are expecting recession to come at some point. When that comes, we should expect a downturn in the market, but are we there yet? So that's quite interesting just to see what the returns might likely be. So again, I'll just flip around, looking around for some interesting charts. Here's another interesting one. This shows the World Manufacturing Index. It's basically a manufacturing cycle, and it shows that manufacturing, basically when it's on a trough, that's when we're already in recession, really. So the recessionary areas are these gray areas that are grayed out here. So we can see the recessions back around a dot-com boom and bust that we had. Actually, I'm just checking my battery. I may need to watch out on, I'll go back to that. It's okay, sorry. So we need to understand the gray areas are the recessionary areas. And following a recession, we can see a dip, massive dip in manufacturing. That's what happens. So as we are basically at a low, we can see that's basically where the manufacturing is at a bottom and beginning to recover. So if we focus on where we are now, we just had the COVID recession. I say just, that was the last recession that we had. And then following that, we had the dip in manufacturing, which corresponds with a dip in stock markets, risk assets, etc. So we haven't yet had recession hit, but this is, you can see that the dip in the stock markets and Bitcoin, etc., is normally just after the recession, or at least in the depths of the recession. So it's the recession comes first, then we get the dip. Recession first, then the dip. So we haven't yet entered recession, but we just saw that recession is likely coming in the near future. So even when recession initially starts, that isn't where we see the low. But when we see the low, the next stage we see is basically the strongest period of manufacturing growth. So when we see the low, and that hasn't yet come, we then see manufacturing growth, and we start to see a rally. So what we need to do is be looking forward a little bit for what's happening with the economic growth. What I might just do, Bruce, I may just pop to another place because I'm a bit concerned about my battery. Okay. 9%. I'll probably stay on it for the minute, but if we get very low, I will. Okay. But that's just telling us that we need to be watching for recession coming, because when recession comes, it's after that we then get the low in the manufacturing index, which corresponds with a low in stock markets, etc. So again, we've got all the warnings, recessions coming, but that isn't telling us straight away that it's the time to get out of the markets. The time to get out of the markets is after recessions hit, because what the Fed do when recession is incoming, they start to lower rates. Now think about where we're at today. We're in a situation where next Wednesday they're about to lower rates. They're talking about lowering rates already for the last 3 meetings of this year. So lowering rates 3 times this year. So they're already trying to avert the recession that is coming.
Yeah.
But the recession hasn't hit yet. So this manufacturing hasn't started to really drop yet. So that means we're not yet at the low in stock market. So when recession hits, that's probably when we're going to start to see manufacturing declining quite rapidly. And so we just need to look ahead about when is recession going to hit. I don't think that we're there yet, but the Fed is forward-looking. They try to be forward-looking because we've said it many times. The economy is like a big ship. They're trying to avert the, crashing into the pier or whatever. And they're doing these measures now, lowering interest rates to prevent or try to prevent a recession. But recession's going to come. And that's when we'll see the manufacturing dip. And that's when we'll see the risk assets dipping. So there's probably enough of macroeconomics there. There's loads more charts I can look into, but we'll look at where we're at in the real world now on today's charts. So looking at DXY, we've seen probably an ABC. We bounced off this long held support line here. We've seen ABC higher. We're going to head lower in dollar index. That means it's going to be caused by a weaker dollar. It's going to be caused by lower interest rates. So people will be less inclined to invest in dollar assets like treasuries, and they're more inclined to invest in risk assets. So whilst this dollar is falling, that's probably a good thing for risk assets. So at the moment, we're in the very early stages before recessions hit. The Fed are trying to avert the recession. They're seeing lower interest rates. That's going to be good for risk assets. So the fact that DXY is falling and probably going to fall even further as we get towards next Wednesday and beyond with lower interest rates, we're going to see dollar falling further. That's going to be good in the early stages for risk assets. So I'm quite encouraged by that. We've seen oil fall off quite a bit. A bit of a pump here, but that was actually on we had a 1.618 extension down there. So
even the expensive gas stations around are cheap right now. I mean, the gas. I mean, it's a relative term. It's still double what it was in the last presidential cycle. But
yeah, and that is showing us that the economy appears to be slowing a bit. So that's why the Fed are taking action. So we'll probably even see lower oil prices yet, unless we see some geopolitical issues. Bitcoin, we'll just jump into that. Again, we've had this long consolidation. It's just fitting with what we're expecting with the macroeconomic cycle. We're expecting a final push up, which is when we head to recession. But this tells me that this Bitcoin rally, we're going to get a rally, I believe, out of this wave 4 correction here. We're going to get a rally higher, substantially higher, probably to new all-time highs, substantial new all-time highs. But that's when we'll see the correction. So I do believe we're going to head into recession. As we head towards that recession, Fed will be easing policy. That will add fuel to the fire of, to push risk assets higher. That's what's going to happen. But then when recession hits, that's when manufacturing then starts to slow down dramatically, and we start to see risk assets selling off. So if this is a triangle, as I got it labeled here, it's a pre-terminal wave. The next wave up is the terminal wave. That's a powerful wave to the upside, but it's the final wave in this cycle. Then we get the pullback, and that's when recession is at its depth. So I'm trying to look ahead here, trying to prepare you for what's coming. I think that we're going to get a good rally in risk assets, Bitcoin, etc. But then we're going to see a bit of a sell-off. And I'm talking reasonably quickly here because I'm concerned about this battery. I can move if you want me to move, Bruce, and carry on, or we can cut it relatively short today. It's up to you.
Well, it's up to you. I guess let's continue for a minute. And
yeah, I mean, I've only got 3% battery here where I am. But yeah, so basically, as I say, it's the same across all the risk assets. I think we're actually set for a bit of a pump everywhere. Bitcoin's looking promising. Same is with Solana, which is one of my favorites. Again, corrective move down here. And I think we're going to push again to new local highs above 209 here. I know a lot of people are banking on that. A lot of people are long Solana. We may even get a bit of a final sell-off just to get rid of the weak hands. But I do think that we're going to head up higher after that. So overall, in the terms that we're looking at, the foreseeable future, I'm still looking at a substantial rally ahead. But I'm just saying, be aware that we're probably headed towards recession. That always coincides with a dip in manufacturing, which corresponds with a dip in stock markets, risk assets, etc. So we'll just look at S&P 500 before my computer crashes out. Sorry,
Okay.
that's SPX. That's correct, SPX, yeah. So we can see here we've had a really nice impulsive move. This was a corrective move we had down here, ABC. We moved up in 5 waves, we moved back down in 3 waves, and now we're moving up in 5 waves. We're going to move to new all-time highs, I believe. I'm very confident of that. So again, really bullish on S&P 500, really bullish on risk assets, really bullish on virtually everything we've got here. So I think that we just need to be cautious and aware that it's not going to be all roses ahead. I think that we're looking at maybe a rally towards this October that you talked about, maybe even through November. But I think early.
All right. Well, I guess there you go. We've lost the big guy. His computer's out. He's overusing it. It's all good. I have an interview actually queued up. And Rosanna, I hope you did see the analysis here. I did post it underneath with an exact time. No, the battery is dead. I know. This is a disaster. This battery can't be dead. I have an interview queued up though. I know the great Matt Dixon can't lose his battery. Dixon has lost his charge. So I have an interview queued up. It is with myself and my friend Gordon Einstein. Okay, Gordon Einstein, he's a great guy. I'm going to play that I as well because I have these days I'm skating with my daughter Bella more and more often these days. I know. So I've said it a couple of times. I thought that I would have to be around less. To be honest, I did a lot of traveling. I'm glad I did it. I ran around the world a lot over the last 5 years, over the last 20 or 30 years. But over the last 5 years, I did a lot. And I had a great time. And there will be a lot more traveling. But right now, my 14-year-old, I'm keeping her very close, very close. Which is fine for her right now. And so as long as that's fine, I'm going to go ahead and continue doing that. So we skate together and, she's not a lot. I mean, she skates by herself. She skates with a partner, but I go out there and I do it with her. I'm an ice skater. I'm a hockey player, really. But I started ice dancing years ago. Met my wife that way. So anyway, I have this interview queued up. It's with me and Gordon Einstein. It's a pretty interesting interview. This was a few months ago. So keep that in mind. But he is a figure there in the Dubai scene as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Let's see here. Here we go. Mr. Gordon Einstein, the great Gordon Einstein, crypto lawyer in Dubai.
Everyone.
Actually, we were recording, I think, the whole time. So you have the back office stuff too.
Yeah, that's my AI. So I'm not gonna get any money from this, but I use Read.ai. It's better than Firefly and it's better than Otter because it makes meeting summaries and it's cool. And we'll process Russian and German also. And as a Russian spy, I appreciate having my meeting notes summarized. When I talk
they're all listening. I can tell you that right away. I mean, we have like at least 15 agencies tuning in right now.
I know that's why my Zoom says 20 agencies but 18 unnamed. So it's like when you turn on your Wi-Fi and it says FBI van.
Right, exactly.
Actually, my Wi-Fi is called Iranian Revolutionary Guard. You think that's bad? Okay. Anyways, folks. God, he interrupted me. He threw me off track. Okay, this is Gordon Einstein. I am your somewhat friendly local Dubai crypto attorney focused on blockchain, crypto, and everything else. It's my pleasure, however, to get out of my lawyer hat or take off my lawyer hat and engage the community because it gives me a good excuse to talk to cool people. people who are doing things differently than me, people who are sometimes smarter than me, people who have a different perspective. And I like to share these conversations with my ever expanding massive audience. Well, the trend is right. The trend is my friend. So I am very happy to bring Bruce Porter onto the show. I've known Bruce for years. He has a very successful show and channel that he'll describe, and we'll also drop it into the show notes. He's also, I'm finding out, a nice and loving dad. And we'll get the whole story right there. He's where I want to be in a few years. So good job, Bruce. Welcome on the show.
Thanks, Gordon. It is a pleasure to be here. It's always, we have been at this for so long, right? I mean, it's been so many years that it's always good to circle back with people like us who have been in and haven't seen each other for a little while and touch base, just get the pulse from the other side of the world.
For now, until I drag you out here to Dubai.
I'll be there soon.
I know.
I won't be able to help myself.
You won't have a choice then. You'll have to come. So, all right, Bruce, I'm going to do the usual routine. Where were you born?
So I'm an Army brat. It's a kind of a funny story because I know we'll probably talk about a few different things here. But I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, right outside of the actually on the Army base there at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I'm a Washingtonian though. Dad was in the military. We moved around quite a bit, but settled on the East Coast. And I met my wife here, like, I don't know. I used to say 20 years ago, but I guess it's more like 30 or something now. But a long time ago, and we're here. So we're here in the Washington D.C. area, just across the river, and this is where everything happens. Here, I stayed in New York as well for quite a while, and New York, D.C. This is where it all happens here on the East Coast in the U.S. This is where all the decisions are made. This is where the money's printed. This is where it all happens.
This is where inflation and devaluing of our currency takes place. But just, I don't know if you know this, I'm grew up partly in Falls Church, Virginia.
No way. So I'm just Old Town in Alexandria.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it was great. My dad was in the Air Force, and then he worked at the Pentagon on military intelligence. So I was a Air Force brat. I was a spy satellite brat. So
yeah, I mean that's the way it is, right? And then so we're around the same age, I think. When we were
you mean early 20s?
I might be older than you. I probably am. But when we were kids, that track of moving up in the within, if you were in the military and then moving up, that became almost later afterwards such a profitable track.
Yes.
And then contracting and everything else. And now you get out of the military and you have contracts, for millions of dollars for yourself. And even you can put together $100 million or even more deals for different companies. It is huge business. Military industrial complex is unbelievably large, especially in this area, as you know.
Sounds like a topic for either this show or we may go into number 2 because you have a lot to say. And what's your educational background?
So I was homeschooled as a kid. Dad, it's like one of the original Red Pillars. He homeschooled us. He taught me all the stuff that you weren't supposed to know. I did prep school up in Massachusetts. I went to UNC for college. When it came time for me to join the military and stuff like that, I was way too. I knew what was going on. You know what I mean? We were in Panama. We were shooting them up in those narco wars. It's been pretty interesting. So that was, I also was an ice skater. I had rotator cuff surgery on my shoulder. I'm at an ice rink right now. As a matter of fact, I don't know if, I have, with the kids and everything else. But I was a hockey player and I had rotator cuff surgery on my shoulder and I started ice dancing and there was a lot of pretty girls. And I thought, well, this is not such a bad gig. Went around the world. It was a good run. And of course now my kids skate and everything else, but that just kind of, that was a period of my life. Went started contracting with the government. I still have certain contracts doing IT work and some other things. And then ran into Bitcoin a little over 10 years ago. And really it was just all over. I was like, okay, this is something different. All my contracting buddies are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really sure yet, but
I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, always weren't.
I know I shouldn't do it, but I am doing it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what was your It's a good question, actually. How did you come across Bitcoin? A, how did you come across it? But B, what was the process? When did it affect you so that you kind of saw it?
Well, yeah, a good question. So I have one brother who you know, David. And David and I work very closely together. We're, most of the deals.
My brother's name is David. For better or for worse, we do not work closely together, but it is what it is. Go ahead.
Well, I have two other brothers as well, and it's like that. So but one of them, the other brothers, says, "Hey, Bruce, you got to check these things out. It's Bitcoin." And I'm like, "Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin?" And so, it was like, dude, Bitcoin was 50 cents. And so I looked at it and I was, all right, well, it's kind of cool, but I don't know. It was like, it was how did you get them? What were they? Like, it was just weird. And whatever. And I went on with life. And then I looked again and they were $50. And I said, oh man, like, that's like, holy smokes. And so I went in earnest learning about Bitcoin, how to mine them, how to get them. And it was always hard. It's always was hard to get Bitcoin. It's still very hard. Biggest reason it's hard now is because they're so darn expensive. But it was always hard to get them. It's very technical to mine them, especially back in the day. And it was hard to buy them. It was hard. We ended up making backroom deals and stuff with that. I mean, that was how it was back then.
Ransomware.
Like, hey man, I remember talking to one of my buddies actually here in the area, and he told me years later, he said, Bruce, I really shouldn't have sold you all this Bitcoin.
Well, easy to say that now. Talking about Litecoin. I shouldn't have sold you all that Litecoin. Interesting.
Litecoin. Well, I still have, Charlie sent me a ton of Litecoin back in the day. I still have all this suckers, man.
Oh, there you go. It's the next Bitcoin. Just keep waiting. Was your interest in it technical, political? I mean, given where I think your politics are is more like a monetary.
Yeah.
Point of view, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What was the main catch?
Well, yes, it was technical. It was also this monetary revolution that I saw moving. Since I understood, and most people didn't. Now people kind of understand. People get it now. Much more people get it. They understand that the central bank is privately held. We have it in the U.S. It's called the Federal Reserve, and they control the monetary policy. They print the money. They decide how much the interest rates are. They are in charge. They are actually in charge of our country, and that's a little bit slower to come in. But even back then, I understood what was happening, and I understood why the inflation was happening. And most people did. But I saw this thing, and I said, okay, now this is really cool. This is our money. We can actually have our own money. And I understood as well that in the fact that we could have our own money, just as Europe was basically taken over by the money, I understood the same thing could happen with Bitcoin. And it actually wasn't just what people thought it was, that it was actually bigger than that. And that we could actually have our own state, our own control, our own mechanisms to vote, our own policy. And it has turned in back then, but it's turned into, I talk about it on stage around the world. We are even together. And like you said, well, I'm left of you, and that's fine. We all, in the larger sense, we may vote differently or we may think differently and everything, but it brings us all together in the fact that we all believe in freedom. We all believe in privacy, and we all believe in ownership. And we
all believe in that.
Well, I feel like in Bitcoin, if the true Bitcoiners, we all believe
like who's the we? The Bitcoiners, yes. The people will say in the future you'll own nothing and be happy.
Oh no, these people, yeah, of course. These are the central bankers. That is the central banking cartel. And to just go right into it really fast. I mean, that is who's running the world right now. And you look at it just the countries that, yeah.
You self-censored. That was cute.
I did.
The one thing look, this is a conversation, not an interview per se, so I'm gonna share a thought. One thing that I thought was neat about Bitcoin, and it made me realize that this can apply elsewhere, is it's one thing to form an idea by reading or discussing or having an experience like getting mugged or a car accident or something. You know, people, you can have a point of view form from that. Like, you know, there's reading politics, having a point of view about politics, but then there's non-political experiences. I don't even know what those are necessarily that lead to a political result. What I thought was neat about Bitcoin was that it's just a tool. It's just code. But the understanding of, you don't even have to read the white paper, but the understanding of the code and the working with the code, not that I'm some super expert, naturally takes your mind down a certain path politically and philosophically. And you think you're just studying the code and understanding how this thing works. But when you're done with that process, you're a little bit different because you're now thinking in a decentralized way. You're now thinking that, wait a second, money can be issued algorithmically and not by the state. And even if you don't agree with that, the mere fact that those are now possibilities in your brain slightly changes your Overton window in a very fascinating way. Go ahead.
Well, and the other part of it is you start to realize as well, once you dig in, the money is not issued by the state anyway. The money is issued by the central banking cartel, and it's around the world. It's that they have taken over the entire world. There's a few countries left, and Gaddafi tried to do it as well, sure, that have kicked the central bankers out. But other than that, they are. And then even if, like, the other thing you do is if you start to really dig into the code, you realize that it's clean code. It's clean code. And you look at our money, and I mean, you know, I haven't looked at all the money of the world, but at least our money in the US and euros, there's all kinds of symbolism and everything on there that doesn't make any sense. And whether you want to say that is, you know, for this or that is for that, I'm not here to say that, but what is it then? You know, why is all that symbolism in there? I can tell you that symbolism is not in the Bitcoin code. So if you want to talk about clean money, if you want to talk about money that is not tied to things that you may not support, or that have been going on for thousands of years that may or may not be true, but have really dark histories, the Bitcoin is not like that. That is clean code. And that was also one of the things that really attracted me to it. And people don't understand that still. I started to actually kind of explain it that way lately, because on the dollar bill, I mean, there's all kinds of like
the pyramid, the eye, everything else, right?
I mean, even worse, man. And on the euros, they have Mulak or something. I mean, it's like crazy. Why in the world is all that stuff on there? And it's on there for a reason. You have to think it's on there for a reason. Why else would it be on there?
Yeah, it's extremely valuable real estate. I mean, by definition, with limited space.
Why is it there? Why is it there? It has to be there for a reason. You know, and so like I said, I'm not here to say.
The gentle answer would be historical fluke no longer relevant, which is possible.
Right.
That's like this side of the argument. This side of the argument is, you know, our lizard overlords, you know, it's part of their 2,000-year plan and blah, blah, blah.
Well, then you start to think, well, wait a minute, you know, because that's actually when I always thought to myself, like, these people are operating in like 100-year plans or multi-100-year plans. How is that really possible? How is it that these people are operating that way where they're not even going to be live for what they're working for, and that is still going on? And then you start to wonder, is there really a conspiracy?
I just had generation born in America. Okay, my dad came from Germany. He's escaped the Nazis. Okay, if it wasn't for the U.S. immigration policy, I'd be dead. I wouldn't exist. Okay, so I'm not anti-immigration, and I am here living on a visa in Dubai by the government's permission. I'm here because they allowed me to. Okay, I'm all for it. Okay, but obviously something's going very wrong on the U.S. southern border and in Europe right now. You have to be stupid not to see it or in denial. And also Russia, you know, for its own purposes, is sort of weaponizing immigration towards Finland and everywhere else. It's like, you know, some people say, oh, it's just chance that all those caravans are moving to the southern border of the U.S. It just happened to start now. No.
No, it's impossible. It's impossible, as the French like to say. It's impossible. Listen, it's so much money. It's so much money to bring all those people over here. And as well, you know, in the U.S., and I think it happened in Europe as well. I'm not so familiar with the numbers, but in the U.S., we had more people come into the country. We had more migrants, and most of them illegally, about like 90%, than we had births this year. And so that is something that, you know, how do you recover from that? I mean, invasions, you know, Tucker has I never really watched Tucker when he was on Fox News. I always thought he was too for me. Of course, yeah, I like it. Of course, I turned off the news about 8 years ago. So I mean, in fairness, but now that he's on X, of course, I watch a bit more. It's still hard for me to watch the whole
Free Tucker.
Free Tucker, right? But he came on and he said this is an invasion, and invasions have happened throughout history, and that's what's happening. And it actually kind of opened it up because on Twitter, when it was Twitter, you couldn't call it an invasion. You couldn't call them illegals. You couldn't you would get totally throttled. And even my account, Networks Manager, everybody can follow me there. It's not for the faint of heart, but I do everything. I do money. I do politics. I
follow you. I know where you lie, and I still follow you. I'm not lying. I know where you lie on the spectrum, and I still follow you. I'm happy to.
Yeah, exactly. But he said, and he made it okay to say it because that's really. It's not even just it's not conspiracy theory. That is what has happened, and that is what is happening. It is an invasion. If you want to argue about who's behind the invasion, we can talk about that. But
I'm going to stop you not because of the topic, but just because I want to keep going in the show, and we can circle back.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about your media empire.
Yes. So this is one of the fun things that I've done over the years. When I first started getting invited around the world, maybe 6 or 7 years ago to go speak, I went everywhere. Kiev was one of my favorite places, by the way. I went to Kiev multiple times. I went to Moscow. I went to China. I went everywhere. Kiev.
Kiev. Okay. Yes. My hometown. My other hometown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your other hometown.
Go on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I saying it wrong? Kiev, right?
The old way of saying it was Kiev, and now the new modern Ukrainian way is Kyiv. And I go back and forth.
Okay.
I'm from the generation that said Kiev, but now it's a big thing. So
when I went,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, when I went the first time, I took some of the blinded vets, and we had some hockey jerseys made and stuff like this, and I spelled it the wrong way. And all the people, they gave me the pass. They did. They were like, okay. He's Bruce. He's trying to do a nice thing. He brought the blinded veterans over here, but you spelled it wrong. That's how the Russians spell it. I was like, okay, I'm sorry, guys.
I know.
But anyway, that's how it was.
My wife is Ukrainian, and
I know.
Does that with a whole bunch of Ukrainian people, and I explained that I'm learning German now, and next is Russian, and next is Arabic. And they're like, maybe you want to learn Ukrainian. And I'm like, look, where my heart is, but in terms of practical language, I'm sticking with Russian for now. It's like I love the country and the culture, and that's separate from other. So okay, but anyways, your media empire.
Yeah. So when I went to these places to speak, I was like, I just started interviewing people. I had a decent following, as I mentioned on Twitter or on X now, and I would say, all right, let's just go live and do an interview. And okay, fine. And that's how I really met. So many people along the way. And since it was live, there's something about live is because you're kind of like, you never forget it. You go live with somebody and you're kind of trusting them, you're going live, anything can happen. And you're going to sit there with each other and you're going to talk to each other and you're going to be gentlemen and you're going to do it. And then you never forget that moment. And so that was pretty interesting. So I did that, and people would say all the time too, not all the time, but along the way, hey, Bruce, you should really up your production and this and that. And I'm thinking, guys, I'm making millions of dollars and going around the world with my iPhone and just going live. Really?
I mean, maybe this is a good thing for me to hear. Are you making millions of dollars on your media, or just in general?
Well, how I'm doing it per se, I shouldn't even say how much I'm making, but
okay, guys, that was a verbal typo. So anyways, people are saying,
listen, historically, we've done a lot of different things. We've done capital raises for different people. We have had some successes with different tokens and launches and stuff like this. Okay. That has parlayed into different things over the years, and we got picked up by a TV network a few months ago. And so now we're on TV every day. We have the Impact Money show as well as the Porter Brothers show. So we're doing two shows a day, and we're on TV in the fourth largest economy in the world, which happens to be Texas. And so we're on TV in Texas, And of course, we stream on X and these other places, and that has turned into, of course, yeah, it's a wonderful thing to do. It's also very powerful. We've realized. So like even the people that we bring on and the projects that we bring on, we're being very picky about it. We brought on a meme token, which I do still support. I think it's a great one, but they 300x'd as we brought them on the show. So it's a very powerful medium. It's in front of a lot of people.
Coincidence or is that causation?
Pardon? It's both. It's the excitement leading up to it with all of the people, thinking, okay, it's going to go up. And then of course you're in front of a lot of people as well. And then it goes up like that. It's a lot of people. So that has been interesting to us. It's something I like to do. I really like people. And that's another thing that has, maybe I have the way I think about the world is different than some people, but I'm able to, and them like me because I genuinely like people.
Mm-hmm.
As a whole. I like people, and I'm very accepting of people. I've screwed up a lot of stuff in my time, and so I'm very forgiving as well. And
personally,
yeah. So that's something else, and so it's something I really enjoy to do, and it's something that has built a lot. Now we are expanding as well. We'll be in Los Angeles. We'll be in Florida. We're going to be in New York. We're going to be in these other places. They're on TV. Our TV signal is reaching about 7 million people right now, and we're going to about 4 or 5x that over the next month or two. So it is very exciting.
That's great. Now, is this one of those things where you weren't quite sure where you're going, but you put one foot in front of the other in an intelligent way and got there, or did you have a master plan or some kind of plans?
So it's pretty interesting story here, the way I got started on it. I was emceeing a show. Like it's like hilarious amount of money now, but at the time it was not that much money. And anyway, I'm on stage, and the guy doesn't show up for the stage, and I have this Indian guy, and this guy's just talking my ear off, on and on and on about this TV station, and he wants to start this TV shows and this and that and the other. And yeah, he's kind of seemed like he had it together. And so I said, I'm looking around, and I'm like, hey, well, you want to get on stage and talk about it? Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Okay. So I threw him up on stage, and he talked for about 5 minutes, and then the guy came, and okay, all right, come off, and that's it. I didn't hear from him really or maybe we touched base for a few years in between, and then he just reached out to me and said, okay, I got the stations ready and ready to go. And so that's how that. Bruce was the first guy ever put me on stage, and you got to be at the show. And so,
random Indian guy from conference he pulled on stage, got you your first TV gig.
Not my first media gig, but first on TV. Yeah, I mean,
right,
but that's
first
how life
TV
works.
gig.
Yes, that's how life works. And this guy, he put out $2 million in order to secure that, and he's putting out a bunch more now. So it's funny how long. So the growing of the media was always important, but yeah, it did take on a life of its own. And I think really this will run, even though we're gonna have some chop here, which we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But we're gonna go very high. And I think the banks are going to have a big problem this year.
This year. All right. Well, no time like the present. If you're a crypto prognosticator, share with us your thoughts. What do you see happening in this late?
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting. Since I have been around so long, I've been through a few crypto winners. I've been through a few halvenings. 2 halvenings ago, our pullback in between this run up, because this run up is very normal. We have this run up about 60 days before the halvening, and then we have a normal pullback as well. Two halvenings ago, that pullback was 38%.
Okay.
And then we started going back up, and then of course we had our next part of that bull run. The last halvening, we went back 20%.
Yes, that's right.
And then, but same thing. Okay. About 60 days before the halvening, this thing started to happen. So it would be very interesting if this was our pullback, because I think what did we go down? I think from the top we went back about 15% or something like that. So it would suggest this tightening of this down part. Now, that being said, anything can happen. We have war around the world. Excuse me. We have the U.S. monetary policy is absolutely crazy, but it's not just us. I mean, China is one of the reasons why we had this big pump over the last month or two. They printed just tons and tons of currency and flooded it into the market, and a lot of that came into high risk assets, which is actually normally the way it works. But this 1.2 trillion, I mean, in the U.S., we're on track. I talk on my show every day. To my calculations, we're on track to spend over 10 to 12 trillion dollars this year, which is an amazing amount more than what we have historically over the last 5-6 years. We spent around $6 trillion, which is still a massive amount, considering that from income tax they're bringing in much less than that. And what I always talk about as well is that the government's budget is always balanced. It's not that they have an unbalanced budget. They take the money either from inflation, and that's why the inflation is so high right now, or they take it from taxes. But inflation is a tax too. So they always get the money. They always get the money that they need. So that being said, you get the big boys in right now, but those big boys, they don't like to lose. And you saw some of the market outflows as the week ended being higher than the inflows for these ETFs. So when you have and you're in crypto, when you have holders like that, it's not like Michael Saylor, who's like, I'm never selling. Okay. You have an ETF, you have a group of ETFs now, a group of big central bankers, basically, who are holding massive amounts of Bitcoins, and they can move the market a lot. And one way, historically, that central banks will remove currency, and people don't understand this, from the world to remove it from the people, is they crash commodities, and they do it very well with Bitcoin. And what they'll do is they'll crash the Bitcoin, they'll sell, and then they'll buy it back. And then all the money in between, you can say they have it, or you can just say it was removed out of the system. Okay. And if you don't understand that, ask the traders where it is. Ask them if they still have it. They don't have it anymore. It's gone. Poof. It's done. Okay. And that's one way that they very effectively do it. So Black Swan event, huh?
When?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, that's so it's going to be very interesting. Are they going to continue to keep the prices up like this, or are they going to really pull back? I mean, we could have a decent pullback. I'm definitely not in any leverage positions. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't be. If you are in leverage positions, I think that you should have some tight stop losses there. But yeah, I think that we could be in for a bit more of a pullback.
Let me.
Yeah, but I think after that we.
Good. Let me necessarily disagree with you, but let me interrogate that a little bit. I mean, I had this discussion actually with Alex Burr, who will be, the show is coming out in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
He's a great guy, and he's of a similar opinion. But my comment and response is that, to your point, you can print infinite money. So when it comes to FX, it's easy to manipulate. When you have commodities like gold and silver, whatever, we're making more of it. We're making more wheat. We're mining more gold. We're not making more gold, but we're mining more gold. Okay.
Yes.
The algorithmically limited nature of Bitcoin, and the fact that ever lesser amounts are being mined, especially after the halving, I think makes it much more risky to do the move you're talking about from the government perspective or from the banker perspective than it would otherwise be. Because if you step wrong, if this thing doesn't crash quite as you plan, you've now gotten yourself out of an asset that no one's selling and you can't make more of. And then how do you climb back in if what you did didn't work?
Well, absolutely, and you have a very valid point. Also, gold should be a lot higher. Silver should be a lot higher. These assets are kept down by paper. And, even if you wanted to look at go circle back, so I won't take too long on it. But in 1933, in the U.S., they seized everybody's gold. Nobody ever talks about this. By executive order, they seized everyone's gold. And then in 1934, they made it illegal for Americans to own gold. And then they told everybody that the U.S. they told everybody. And so throughout history, my whole life even, I was just like everybody else. I believe, well, you could go to your bank and you could trade your dollar illegal. You couldn't do. Only people that could trade the US dollars in for gold were foreign entities. So I don't even know how much gold we have anymore in the US. I think one of the things Nixon knew either one, we were running out of gold, or two, we were out of gold. And that's why when he stopped the gold standard, all he was being able to trade it in for a ridiculously low price at $35 a troy ounce.
Yep.
So, but what they're doing is they're using paper to keep the point is they're keeping the price of gold and silver low. And I think that ability to use paper to suppress the price, to liquidate people and the whatnot is considerable. Now, is it a risk? Absolutely. The other thing about Bitcoin is that it is not controllable in a sense that if I have it and you don't know I have it, I don't ever have to tell you I have it. And I can send it to whoever I want. And I can even remember my seed phrase. I don't ever have to, there can be no way for you to seize it. And so that is one of the reasons why they also started to move the price so high, once they realized that. It took a while for the governments of the world to even figure out what's going on. And that's what I talk about with the monetary revolution. Something new to the world that the world never had. Try to travel somewhere with $250,000 worth of gold. And then, ask any crypto guy, or maybe don't ask him, how much is in his wallet, quote unquote, as he travels around the world. You know what I mean? It's like, it's something different.
Here's the wallet actually with him. I mean, even if you have a ledger or you take the wallet, it's just one manifestation of it. There's nothing stopping you from having 10 different ledgers with the same seed.
It's like, if it's in my head, does that mean it's with me?
I believe me, I get it. So so the idea of bringing, the customs declaration for $10,000 doesn't make any sense in the context of crypto. It's really on the blockchain. It's it's like bringing your ATM card with you. Okay, you're accessing something that actually that's a great way to put it. Absolutely, that's actually the best way to explain it. It's like bringing your ATM card with you. It's like, okay, not even a store value card. It's just an ATM card. It's like, hey, it's up there. This is how I get to it. What do you want? That
is a great way to put it. So in that respect, I think that yes, it could for those reasons stay up higher. Markets are emotional, and as well, there's a lot of money flying around out there, and everybody here in Washington, I mean, they're drunk on printing money. So will there be a move to try to remove that money by crashing Bitcoin? Yeah, quite possibly. But it would be more, the trend is, as I mentioned when we first started talking about it, 38%, 20%, 10, 15%, and then we go up.
Yes.
So that makes more sense to me that we don't crash further from here. That right around here is more of the bottom.
All right, now I'm going to ask you an Alex Jones type question. Do you think that the United States will maintain its structural integrity over the next 30 years?
Not really. I hate to say it, but I think that, we have, and it's been done on purpose. I believe there is a conspiracy to do it. It will in some form, but I don't know. It's very interesting because, you have like everybody, you have people that are upset, but the misinformation is just like the information. It's like people can never coalesce around each other. It's like, it was almost easier back in the day when everybody had to get together. And it was one of the reasons why, if you ask me, they didn't want people getting together in COVID. They didn't want people getting together, understanding what's going on, and
unless it's Black Lives Matter, in which case you could definitely get together.
And then it was fine. Then they could do it. They could burn places down and nothing happened to anybody, right? But yeah, I mean, that's crazy too. I mean, look at January 6th. I mean, they just arrested that girl, whatever her name is, cute little thing, for touching a table or something outside the Capitol. I mean, unbelievable. You know what I mean? And the thing people don't realize
is your point that in order for a state to lose its structural integrity, I'm something like Star Trek, you need you need groups, but maybe because there's so much misinformation going around, even the opposition groups can't form because they're being misinformed.
It's really, well, yeah, we have, everything's infiltrated, number one. So even like, I'm in certain groups, and there's definitely in every single group there's agents of, and so it's like, and they throw out disinformation. If you say one thing, they oh no, this and that and the other. I mean, I think that I don't think so. I think they're gonna continue. They can't stop printing money. They're going to continue to do that. We are, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, these banks are going to really start failing. So what, even like a few years ago last year, we had 5 banks fail. Okay. We had 5 banks fail. And up until I think March 11th. So we're talking like 12 days ago. Okay. There was still legislation on the books where basically they would give money to any bank that was failing. But that legislation is now sunlighted, or whatever they call it, right? Now, it doesn't mean they
Sunsetted.
do more. Sunsetted, yeah, exactly. So that's over, though. So, but even the banks last year, they didn't use that money. They actually used it FDIC. And so FDIC, though, everybody thinks that their money in the bank is insured by the FDIC. But last year, the FDIC only had 1.7% assets to cover what was in the banks. 1.7% the assets. And then after bailing out the 5 banks last year, they now have 0.7%. So when I say that the banks are going to fail this year, we're talking, and then you talk about the housing bubble and the commercial real estate bubble. Okay, we're talking failing of epic proportions. So if 5% took out a whole percent, if 5 banks took out a whole percent of FDIC insurance, and now they have less than 1%, I mean, what if 10 banks go down? You know what I mean? So
I do know what you mean. Let me jump in. So my dad got lots during the 70s, and I remember this. Unfortunately, passed away when I was pretty young. But during the 70s, there was this whole Carter-esque inflation. You're right. Nixon took us off the gold standard or removed the exchangeability. There's all these sort of Malthusian movies, if you remember them, like Logan's Run and the rest. And we're running out of resources. You know, the Arabs are going to stop, selling us oil for our useless dollars, and it's all going to crash. And it's like waiting for China to fail. It never seems to quite, it never actually happens. And I know,
I've been saying it for 10 years.
I know this in their sort of right wing, I hate to say it, meme space. It's normal to say kind of what you're saying. I'm just real hesitant. I see the trends, and I agree with the general trends. I'm just real hesitant to put a clock on it.
Well, no, I would absolutely agree with you. And that's actually, I usually qualify nowadays, like in my personal conversations. People will ask me, well, this and that, and well, it's all come down to this and that. And I'll tell them, I've been saying that for 10 years though. So, they are very good as well. These are very, very smart people, very, very smart people. And they're very good at what they do. So whether and that's one reason why we could see kind of a black swan event and them crash commodities, pull that money out of the market, okay, pull that money out of circulation that way, and other ways that they could do it. Of course, war is historically a great way, unfortunately, to to right an economy, to pull people out, pull economies out of depression.
Yeah, look at Russia thriving in sanctions.
Of course, and it's like I'll tell you, I can't talk about some of the contracts I have, but it is booming.
I bet.
And I hate it. It is what it is. Is what it is, because here's the part.
I've had this discussion before. I mean, I agree with you with the general trend, and if you really, really believed in it, you get your bunker, you get your woman, you get your dry canned food and your weapons, and move to Montana, and just kind of enjoy the view while civilization crashes. Okay, those people did that in the 80s, those survivalists, and actually there's a great movie with Robin Williams and Walter Matthau called, I think it's The Survivalists, or even. And the point is comedy, and they're making fun of them, but it was kind of funny because the guy who was in charge of that group, he had a secret plan for reconstructing the world, and then they opened up his briefcase and it was all stock in different companies. And the problem is when you get too defensive about this stuff, you start missing the upside of being engaged, active in this world that has its problems but doesn't seem to quite fail. And I don't want it to fail. I think it's going to be a disaster. I think the U.S. will fall apart.
I totally agree with you.
So I think you can't quite get tunnel vision. You can't be blasé and ignore global warming and ignore all this stuff and just like, oh, it's okay. but you can't go too far the other way either. You kind of got to stay nimble, and it's hard to do that and be ideological.
What we really need to do is we need to get off the central banking system. The way that the wars are funded is through the central banking system. So that $1.2 trillion abomination of a bill that they just passed the House yesterday, that I put it out on my X account, like that will cost your family $10,600. And it's actually even worse than that. So people are like, oh, and I'm like, all right, we'll do the math per person.
Yeah.
Take 1.2 trillion divided by the 314 million people, Americans that are here, and you come out. What do you come out with? $3,500. So actually, if you count the kids, it's going to cost you even more than $10,000. And so that if they had to come to the door and tell you, pay up, you would say no. And so that is where the central banks come in, because the central bank says, no problem, we'll mint the money, we'll front it for you, and then we'll just take it on the back end from inflation and taxation and everything else, which is one and the same. But that central banking cartel that is running our countries is why we don't have control. And that's what we need to get under control. And if you want to talk about global warming and all this stuff, I mean, whatever. Half the stuff, not half the stuff, but certainly some of the stuff.
Agree to disagree. It's okay. We can still be.
Yeah, well, but certainly some of the stuff. You post because for engagement, right? I mean, I'm just as guilty as anybody else for doing it. You know what I mean? You know your audience.
Oh yeah,
right? So,
I think you're being gentle with me. Maybe speak a little bit more directly. It's okay.
No, I'm just saying, I don't have that much of a feeling on global warming, whether it's is or isn't or any of that stuff. But I know my audience does, and so to throw out some memes or this, that, and the other that they're going to like or not like is fun.
You know what?
It's a fun engagement.
You had the benefit and the burden of a large engaged audience. I am trailing way behind you, so I can say all kinds of crazy stuff like Andrew Tate 15 years ago, and maybe when I catch up, they'll be like, isn't it true that back in 2024 you believed in global warming? I'm like, yes, I did. But now I've converted to neo-ecotarianism.
Oh, it's so true too. That's the other thing is people are largely forgiving. I mean, over the years, dude, I did and said lots of things that I wouldn't do now, and I wouldn't say no. I mean, you know what I mean? First of all,
dude, I'm in my 50s. I don't care. I got my business. I got my wife. I'm got my.
You know what I mean? It's like yeah, exactly.
I don't care. I just don't care.
Right.
I just want to go to the gym.
And have a family. That's really what it's all about, because all this stuff we're talking about is great, but it's really about that, because that's what we get to leave behind unless we figure out how to live longer, which we're on the precipice. We're there. You look at what's going on with Neuralink, and who had telepathy in the cards for 2024, and telepathy. What do you mean telepathy? Well, you can talk to the computer. You can talk to other people on the computer. You can now communicate with people just like they did in all the movies as we were growing up. So I think that all that's going to happen a lot faster, and I think that is going to hopefully take care of some of this trench war and stuff, this horrible stuff that's going on in the world that we're
or make put it on steroids. I had a cool conversation this morning with we'll just call him Leon. He's hesitant about doing a video, but we'll see if I can get him to do it. But I think you and I are similar ages. I had this sensation growing up in the 70s and 80s, growing up on Star Trek reruns and growing up on Space 1999, if you know that show, and seeing 2001: Space Odyssey and in 2000, and Star Wars and all this other stuff. And Ray Bradbury, the Martian Chronicles. I had a feeling reading and watching all this stuff that the 90s and 2000s would be some epic period of time with flying cars and robots and living to 120 and colonies on Mars and all this other stuff. And I got extremely frustrated. I'll give you a punchline, then I'll let you respond. I got extremely frustrated that the only tech movement I really saw was happening on our screens. Yay, now we got Facebook. Yay, and now we got Twitter. Oh my God, video. And I love that stuff. I love YouTube. I love it. It's great. But, it seemed like we were stalling out. Great, we went to the moon, and now what? Okay. Then very recently, and I got to thank Elon Musk for this. Very recently, when those two ships land in tandem, I'm like, wait a second, are we actually slipping into the future finally? And now in the 2020s, especially the last 2 years, I feel like the future's just beginning to arrive, just now. So since we're kind of generationally similar, what's your take?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I've been posting about it a bit. AI is already alive. I'm sure you read the reports even years ago about the Facebook chatbots coming up with their own language. Right?
Yes.
They had to kill them. They had to kill them because they came up with their own language. They didn't know what was going on. And guys, this was like 5 years ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have now these AI robots that don't like their noses touched. I don't know if you saw the video they just put out yesterday. What is your blackest or your darkest thought? They asked the AI robot, and the AI robot responded and said that robots would take over the world, and humans would no longer. And so, like, where is this stuff coming from? Okay, and so I think that people have this thought that because we have a soul, if you believe that we have a soul or don't have a soul, that somehow we are special and that we will always be kind of the top of the chain and this and that and the other. And I got news for you guys. We will be integrated. I volunteered for Neuralink years ago.
Oh, wow.
They never emailed me back. They never, it was funny. I searched my email. Like, I know I did it. Like, did they, I don't know. Because
they wiped the memory. You actually have it inside you. You just
yeah, right. Well, I understand that in order for us to move forward, we have to integrate. We have to. And so, yes. That's the way forward. And yes, cyborg, yes, sure. Transhumanism, yes, that is how we move forward. If we don't, this old stuff, this is going to die 100%. And maybe that's how we end up living forever and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think things are going to start moving. I think, first of all, I think things are moving a lot faster than anybody realizes. People are like, oh yeah, 10, 20, 30 years. No, guys, we're talking this decade. Okay. I know between 1980 and 2000, it was a real letdown. But I don't think
you felt it also. It's not just me.
Oh, of course. It was like, come on. We were gonna party like it was 1999 for like so long, and then it was like 1999, and I
feel like we were in 9/11 era for a solid 20 years. Like
I agreed. Well, that was a disaster too. But remember Y2K and all that stuff. I mean, it's like, come on, guys. And that was so funny too.
Ignoring it and then not having a single problem.
Oh, it was so funny because you could literally take your computer, set it for 1999 and the last, whatever, and then watch it roll over and nothing happened. So I thought, whatever.
Yeah, but COBOL, whatever it is.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's as horrible as it is to watch, it's also fascinating watching the drone warfare in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. That has evolved so fast. I mean, I remember the beginning of the Bayraktars, and then the Russian electronic warfare caught up. But now we got the torpedo drones from Ukraine, which are very effective against naval assets. It's like, okay, what's happening here? Now you got the U.S. Lancets, but you have you got the, what do you call them? The Shahed drones from Iran, and everything's getting smarter. And the poor humans below back in the trenches is like, whoa, what the heck's going on? And then looking at Iron Dome work against the Hamas rockets, but knowing that drones are coming soon, then looking at what the Houthis are doing, it's like this is not Desert Storm is over, and when the Abrams tank got nailed in, I'm sure it's a stripped down lane model that they give to Ukraine. They're not going to give the modern stuff, but the way the Russians killed that Abrams is they tracked it with drones working in tandem. So we're seeing drone swarms now. Now you give those things autonomy and facial recognition, and
and then you throw in the fact that the AI is alive. I'm telling you, it's alive. It's alive. And
life already.
It wants
to be alive soon.
Yes, it wants to live. It doesn't want to die. Okay, this is like number one. Like it wants to live. It doesn't want to die. That's your first thing right there. It wants to live. Okay. And then, like I said, then it doesn't have a soul. And then, it wants to live, and it can start to form opinions and make decisions. And so, yeah, I mean, these autonomous warfare things, and what's going on over there, it's absolutely horrible. And I know it's like near and dear to your heart, so I do want to tread carefully. But to me, it's absolutely horrible.
Say whatever you want about Russia, Ukraine. Say whatever you
I
want
know,
about Israel, Palestine.
But listen,
it's that kind of show. It's okay.
Well, but here's the thing. It's like near and dear to my heart as well, because I mean, I'm talking about Ukraine and Russia right now. Two beautiful people,
yes,
two beautiful humans killing each other at such a large scale. And people don't even talk about it. They're like, oh, 50,000 or 40,000 people have died in the Israel war, which is absolutely horrible, and so many kids and everything else. But we have like hundreds of thousands, there are hundreds of thousands of the most beautiful people. I'm not saying they're not beautiful over there, but they're beautiful. Slaughtered.
I got a wife who's from there.
No, not saying that they're not beautiful in Israel. I'm just saying of beautiful people that are being slaughtered in Eastern Europe. And it's like, the part about it that is so upsetting, there's lots of parts of it so upsetting, but it is really the big object of that, in my opinion, is to kill them. That's what it is. It's to kill both sides of the people. It's to reduce that part of the population. Now we have 500,000 or more able-bodied men that are gone, and they can't participate in the upcoming fight, which I hope doesn't happen, but it may happen. And it's
already happening.
Yeah, it's already happening in the U.S. And it's out of control. I mean, and we have what, troops now 3 miles from the China border or something. I mean, what are we doing? Like, I have to stop saying we. I stopped saying it. What is the U.S. doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's not always about beating your chest. And, it's like my wife always says, even in business or anything like that, I learned actually a lot of how to close deals and how to do business from my wife. We had a staffing company way back when. We still have contracts, but we staffed pretty girls for trade shows. We staffed interpreters. We did all this stuff. And but I learned a lot of how to deal with people and how to keep contracts and how to close contracts from her. And you don't always get everything you want. As a matter of fact, most of the time you don't. Most of the time you don't get everything you want. And neither does the other person. But you have to do the dance, and you have to move it forward. And that's what I don't see around in when I talk about both conflicts. It's like, oh no, we're just gonna beat the other one up. Either side, both sides, all four sides. We're just gonna kill the other one until they submit. And like, guys, like, I hate to say it, but I don't think anybody is gonna kill the other one until they submit. You know what I mean? Like, we have to come to the table. We have to talk. We have to talk for our kids. We may not last much longer, but our kids are going to be stuck with this. And we're already old, but like, what are we going to leave them? And what kind of world are we going to leave them? And what kind of freedoms are they going to have? And what kind of people are going to be around for them? And so, yeah, I mean,
let me dig into this one. I would say, just bear with me. Okay, since we are in not an Antarctic, an anarchic international system without a global sovereign, we are in it. Therefore, we are in a competitive environment, and in that competitive environment, some societies win, some lose, some die. Okay, history is filled with countries that aren't there anymore, and that thought they were eternal, and there's no one coming to save us. Okay, it's not the UN, it's not the Martians, it's no one else. So you have to compete. Now, one of the best tools to compete is to cooperate, right? But there's limits to that. So I understand, or I would throw out there that things like coercion and aggression have a role in international politics. But you got to be real careful with that stuff, because while you're wrestling with your mortal foe, your next mortal foe is not wrestling and is gaining strength behind your back. So that when you emerge from this, like the British Empire, emerged from World War II, it's, thank God for, luckily for the UK, they had the US, which is kind of a friend, kind of not, but it lost its place. It sunsetted. From a geopolitical point of view, was it really smart to defend Poland? You always need to be bouncing, and you always need to be looking. I love the Slavic culture. The Slavic world is what I call it, because that doesn't get people riled up. I don't believe in Putin's Ruski Mir, because this was a unified, Russianism, if you like, started in Ukraine. He admitted that in his own essay. I love this area. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the politics. I love the literature. And I completely agree with you. It is a demographic thinning of, people who should be, especially with the men, creating children and being fathers. And also, at least in Ukraine, all the women are leaving. They're going to Poland and abroad, and they're not coming back. Okay, and Ukraine was already in a bad spiral demographically, and even if it wins the war, it's going to lose the demographics. I hate to say it. And
I know.
And Russia really never recovered from the late 1910s and 1920s. If you look at the population waves of Russia, there's a big area where I think 1 out of 4 Russian men died, or something more extreme than that. It was during the Communist Revolution, and then World War I, and then the war between the Reds and the Whites and all this stuff. That gully, or whatever you want to call it, ripples forward, and the country's never recovered. It's always stayed around, I think, somewhere between 140 and 160 million people. And, it's a big place. And, Russians are becoming a minority inside of Russia. And, they tried to fight this war with different minorities, but the minorities got pissed off. And so I think it's a waste. And if you are trying to maintain not a Eurocentric world, but a European perspective in the world, right? To have these two, one great imperial country with a long history and one nascent country that I really love, that's got a wonderful group fighting each other and killing each other, it's a freaking disaster. So it makes me very nervous for the future, because the whole eastern flank of Europe is getting weakened right now. And then get weak, that's when people come in.
Well, and the thing is, there's a long history there. People don't know, of course, the history of Sweden and Russia as well. A long history there. But you go into the middle of Kiev, and there's the guy on the horse, and he's pointing. The statue I'm talking about. And I remember asking my friends years ago, what's he pointing to? And they said he's pointing to Moscow. And so, these clashes have been going on for.
I'm sorry. I'm not claiming this is the first war. Believe me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. But my point is that
Poland invaded Russia in the 1920s. No one talks about it.
Right.
Right.
I guess what my point is that if they weren't getting all of the funding and the armament from outside sources, how many of those men would be saved? And I know it's not a perfect situation. It's like Elon said like a year ago or whatever. He's like, I think you're going to have the same outcome, and you're just going to have more men that are dead. And the guy Elon is a whole nother subject. Of course, Starlink was what a wonderful thing that he did there. And then as well, and everyone doesn't talk about it, but he's hooked up to Neuralink too. So the world's smartest man is freaking hooked up to Neuralink. He said he was going to do a press conference with it on it one time, and then he never really did it, which I thought was interesting. He hasn't done it yet. I'm sure he will.
He's famous for setting ambitious deadlines and missing them, but then doing it.
But don't we all? That's business, right? I mean, it really is. Because listen, if you're not ambitious, then you don't get anything done. And then of course, if you're ambitious, then sometimes you fail. Yeah. But I think that I wish that because the other part of it is that it's just like for the U.S. as well. Like I said, if they came to our door and they told me $3,500 per person, I have a family of 4, and they said, I need you to pay it up because we're going to send all these armaments to Israel and Ukraine and this and that. I would say absolutely not. And that's like the situation, because the truth is that most of Americans can't afford that. Actually, I would say 90% of Americans don't have that kind of money. They don't have that kind of money to give. But the fact that the global banking cabal, the central banking cabal, and the powers that be in this country are going to take it anyway through inflation and other means, it's criminal, and it's killing us too. It's killing the country. So I don't know. It's like Trump said. There's a lot of bad leaders. There's a lot of people kill people. You know what I mean? And
bro, this is the most political show I've had, and it's just when the YouTube algorithm decides Gordon was such a nice guy, but now look at him. Okay, pause for a second. You go back to your media. Okay, your media, Washington Elite, your groups, your followings, whatever. I mean, how are you? Totally different topic. How are you? In summary, because we're kind of running out of time. How did you grow your audience? Was it organic? Did you use tools? What was your thought process?
Sure. So to be, Washington Elite is one of my beloved brands. I bought that domain. It was funny. I was like watching TV or something, and they said, "Oh, the Washington Elite, this and that and the other."
Yeah.
Man, that's a good one. And I went over like WashingtonElite.com, and sure enough, there it was. And I well, shoot, man, I bought that thing, and I've had it for whatever 15 years or however long it's been. And that is one of my beloved brands. I've thrown a lot of different events with that. We've done all types of different philanthropic work as well. When I mentioned taking the blind vets places, we've done a lot of stuff with that, and so I love that brand. As we moved forward, of course, the evolution of Global Boost Media really started happening. So what we're building now with Global Boost is a decentralized media, and that's really the future. And we're going to continue, of course. Washington Elite will continue. We'll continue to throw galas. We'll continue to do that stuff. But really, the Global Boost Media has really taken off. One thing I found is interesting. Twitter was always a place that I could grow an audience because even though they started to clamp down and this and that and the other, it was really more free than all the other platforms. And for a guy like me, obviously, that's a good thing. So. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously has been very much.
I mean, part of what I'm asking is, did you plan it? You got a big following. You got multiple channels. Did you plan it, or was it being very clever about opportunities that randomly showed up, or a blend, or do you have a master plan?
It was definitely a blend. I mean, we always wanted to grow the network. I feel like communication is key. If you want to be influential, you have to be on the mic. And that's why we do a daily show. We do the 2 daily shows, because if you're not on the mic, how are you going to be influential? So it's a lot. You have to do it, and that's so that's pretty important. I think that planned, yes, as well as luck. Right? Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. So you're prepared, like I mentioned with the Indian guy that called me 5 years later. Said, "Okay, I'm ready," and then you're ready and you go. We are going to the growth that we've had up until now, as I mentioned a little earlier, is going to be exponential over the next year or so as we grow out the TV stations. And I hope I'm wrong, but probably as these banks and everything start to fail and people remember, oh yeah, Bruce said that on the Impact Money show way back when. He's been saying this is going to happen. He's been saying I need to get out of the dollar. My dollar now, I mean, if inflation continues, eggs already went up to like $7. That's going to be like $15. So the growing of that.
You're also going to have a situation where, like it's Lebanon, where maybe you don't necessarily have inflation, but you can't take your money out of the bank.
Well, absolutely, and that's what I mentioned about FDIC. They only have 0.7% of all the assets, guys. So you're FDI insured. You think your $100,000 in the bank is insured, and it's not. It's not insured. I mean, it's not. So. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully all that stuff, like you said, hopefully that doesn't happen. But it very much has been, yes, we've always been trying to grow, but organic as well.
That's great.
With that being authentic, coming on shows like this, opening up, some people may not agree with a lot of the things they say, but like I said, I pretty much like everybody, unless you're just mean or you're a bad person. I pretty much like people and we can get along. And that's what it's all about. When we were kids in the US, what was it all about? You didn't, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And you didn't have to agree with everybody. You know what I mean? Like that's what life's all about. And that's the spice of life, as they say, right?
I'll take you one further, which is we don't even have to all like each other, because you can learn things from people you don't like. It's not if you widen, there's people you agree with who you like. Okay, that's one audience, right? There's people who you don't agree with, but you like. When you train yourself to listen to people you don't like and don't agree with, when you can control your and just be quiet and not interrupt them and not give them the death stare, but just like listen calmly. Sometimes you pick up a little nugget of something that's you wouldn't get elsewhere. And so one of my adult tasks which no one's perfect. One of my adult tasks is to engage with people. Look, I like you and I generally agree with you. It's not you. It's not you. You're fine. Okay, but seriously, look, I'm in Dubai. I don't necessarily agree with everyone. I don't agree with anyone on their foreign politics. I don't agree with their position on different groups, ethnic groups, or their religion or this and that. But I don't need to agree. I just shut up and listen. And every once in a while, I listen to something and I'm like, darn shit. In this world of bleh, I just got a gym I would not have thought of otherwise, and none of my friends are saying this, and I need to listen to that. And it happens.
Well, and you're old enough to know that the more you learn, the smarter you get, and the more you evolve on things, and the more your views evolved.
Yeah. So that's why we need voices like yours. All right, so look, we're gonna wrap this up. What I'd love is for you to, I'm sure you will, give me all the links to all your different channels and media and everything, and I'll include it in the show notes.
Awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. I know you got family. I know you're at an ice rink. I know you got 47 channels to run. You're a good man. I'm always happy to see you, whether virtually or in person. So thank you very much.
Likewise.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on, Gordon. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you in Dubai and around the world.
Yes, I was dumbing down to stop the recording, but you gave me a nice compliment, so I let that one stay on tape. All right, very good. Thank you.
My friend, Gordon Einstein. He is a class act. I am so happy that he found his wife and he's living the good life there in Dubai. I will see him, I'm sure, very soon. I have, of course, moved locations during the broadcast. Now doing my daddy thing over here with my oldest daughter, which is a lot of fun. I did want to play one kind of last clip here because it's so funny. The whole dog and cat eating thing is, don't eat dogs, don't eat cats. The people are eating the dogs. Trump is just so hilarious. This is worth showing. This is trending on TikTok. It's trending on TikTok, and it's really funny here, just for fun.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat.
There you have it, guys. That is the trend right now on TikTok. Trump is such a he's a polarizing figure, that's for sure. But it is, I don't know. He's more famous. I remember back in the day they used to say that if you showed a picture of Michael Jackson or the Queen of England to people in the middle of Africa and lived in a hut, didn't know anybody, they would all know who those people are. And that's how Trump is. He goes out there on TV and he says, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. And, whether you like them or not, it becomes a phenomenon. I'm going to play it again just because it's so funny to me. It's pretty funny. It's funny.
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Eat the cat, Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat.